Today, I want to talk about hormones and how they may or may not be making you fat. I work with women on weight loss, and the women that I work with are generally of a certain age. Because we're women, and because we're of a certain age, we do have a lot of hormonal goings on. And women just do. Never mind age, we just do. We are hormonal. You know what, though? Humans are hormonal. Hormones are chronically running the show behind your body. My hope in this talk is that you understand hormones better, just the very concept of them, because I actually don't think they're your problem to the extent that you do. And I want this to feel like an empowering message, because knowledge is power and power is empowering. And the fact that my last name is Power is just a happy coincidence, okay? But I want to talk to you about the hormones that might be contributing to your weight struggles. They're probably not the ones you're thinking of. And also, I would like this to be non-boring, kind of interesting, entertaining, edutaining, if you will. Because if you're listening to this, you're not maybe a scientist. Maybe you're slightly science-minded. Maybe you like to understand the why behind things. Why does this happen? How does this happen? What is happening? I actually would love it if you wanted to know the how, the what, and the why. But you don't need to know it at a deeply scientific level. And I don't know if it's just my echo chamber, but I feel like sometimes we get a little too in the weeds of the science, and then we're leaving the end user in the dust. I feel like my peers do this a lot in the spirit of puffing up their chests and showing everybody what they know. We're leaving what I would call the health consumer, the you, me, the normal person trying to live in our bodies. We're getting left in the dust. So I don't want to take this to that level, but I do think there's some utility in understanding just the science of hormones generally. So first of all, when somebody talks about hormones, whether that's you talking about hormones or a wellness practitioner talking about hormones, they need to be more specific about which ones they're talking about. We all need to be more specific about which hormones we're talking about, because saying hormones doesn't say anything. Generally speaking, there are about 5 categories of hormones in your body. We have the sex hormones, your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, and other various hormones around those big ones and some precursors. And there's a whole cluster of hormones in the sex and reproductive hormone category. We have the thyroid hormones, T3, T4, reverse T3, TSH. So if you have a thyroid condition, you might be very well versed in thyroid hormones. I'm only mildly versed in thyroid hormones. I really do specialize in one category of hormones, which we'll get to in a minute. We have the adrenal hormones. This is your adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol. Cortisol, we're going to talk about that one for sure. And then we have the fuel partitioning hormones, or what I would call the metabolic hormones. This is the hormones that I love. Insulin being the big one, glucagon, leptin, ghrelin, GLP-1. Okay, there's a lot of them. Cortisol. Now, I will talk about cortisol because it's sort of a fuel partitioning hormone too. The thing about hormones is they're not easily categorizable. So even me categorizing them is a bit of a problem, but cortisol is kind of an adjacent fuel partitioning hormone too. So I care about that one. Then we have like circadian or neuroendocrine type hormones. Melatonin is the big one. Melatonin is a circadian hormone. Cortisol, again, circadian hormone. So you see how like cortisol is a good example of a hormone that kind of spans a few different categories. I think melatonin does too. I consider melatonin to be one of my hormones, the metabolic hormones, because there's a fuel partitioning element to melatonin, the sleep hormone as well. Am I losing you? Are you with me? I don't want us to know all these hormones, but I think there are some that are worth talking about. But just understand those categories of hormones. And then we have to understand what hormones generally are. They're body chemicals that send and receive signals and trigger bodily processes based on the signals that are being sent and received. That's a really long-winded definition, but I wanted just to riff on the definition of a hormone for you off the dome, because somebody saying a hormone is a chemical messenger doesn't tell you anything. I think adding this conversation around signal, hormones send signal, they also receive signals. That's the messenger piece, sending and receiving messages, right? Not just sending them, but also receiving them back from you. Hormones are responsive body chemicals. They might be responding to when you're eating, what you're eating. They might be responding to what time of the month it is. They might be responding to circadian factors like the sunrise. They're responding and they send signal back. They run your body. They're running your body. They're amazing. Hormones are amazing. Hormones are not trying to ruin your life. Okay? We put a lot of blame on hormones, but they're simply chemical compounds in the body that are doing a job based on the signals that we're sending. They're receiving the signals that we send in. The reason I mention that is because you have some responsibility in here. You're the pilot of the skin bag. You're running the body through life. You're bringing in the inputs. You're doing the things. You're bringing in the food. You're bringing in the sleep. You're bringing in the stress. You're bringing in the sunlight exposure. You're bringing it in, however you're doing that. And your hormones are saying, okay, here's what we got to work with. I put some of the responsibility for your hormonal health back in your hands, as one should. You're not powerless to your hormones. I think that's what happens when we start going down the path of blaming hormones for things, is we just kind of throw our hands up and say, well, it's my hormones. Okay, so what are you going to do about those hormones? You could do something. The hormones are waiting for you to do something, waiting for you to just do what you're going to do so the hormones can know what's going on in the world. Like, let's anthropomorphize, let's humanize your hormones for a second, okay? Hormones are just little guys living in your body, wondering what's going on outside. They don't know. Your hormones can't see what's going on outside. They only know what's going on outside based on the inputs you provide. Oh, here comes some food. Oh, here comes some sleep. Here comes some stress. Here's how I'm going to respond to those things. The hormones are responding to what you're doing. You are driving the skin vehicle. That's on you. That's great news. It's all up to you. Yay, that's personal responsibility. That's exciting because then you can do something. You're not powerless to your hormones. But I know you feel like you are. And there are some hormones, like those 5 categories I gave you. So women of a certain age. I started this conversation by saying women of a certain age. Well, now we're kind of talking around women and aging, and we're probably talking around what's going on with the sex hormones. Now that is happening whether you like it or not. Okay, so the sex hormones really behave very uniquely differently in that they're responding to time of life, more of a life input, the passage of time. You've run out of eggs, they're gone, right? So that's what your sex hormones are perceiving as this aging woman paradigm. It's all good. It's bound to happen. So estrogen's kind of tapering and progesterone's going wacky and testosterone maybe is a moving target. The sex hormones are going to do what they're going to do, pertinent to the signal of the passage of time. That's the signal. And you can't do anything about that. Okay, so you cannot do anything about your sex hormones and what they're doing right now. Okay, now that's not totally true because you can do hormone replacement therapy. You can take supplements that encourage the precursors. But at the end of the day, as we move through life, our reproductive hormones are going to just sort of pack it in because we just aren't reproductive anymore. We can manage the symptoms of that experience. So women are managing their menopause symptoms through hormone therapy. That's amazing, managing symptoms. Because when these hormones start to go wacky, you feel crazy. You feel a little mental health stuff. You might feel body pain. You might feel sleep disturbances or body temperature regulation. The symptoms of it are unpleasant. You can manage the symptoms, but we're not solving menopause. You can't solve it, just so we know. Now, I think when somebody talks about, I need, balancing my hormones, I need to balance my hormones. It's a phrase that just is nails down a chalkboard for me. Somebody who thinks a lot about hormones. Hormones aren't balanced. They're responsive. They're dynamic. When I think of balance, I think of like this even keel, but that's not what hormones are meant to do. They're meant to be responding and dynamic and fluctuating. So I think when people say, well, I just need help balancing my hormones, I want to know which category of hormones are you talking about and to manage what experience are you having in your body. So for example, I need to balance my reproductive hormones as I go through menopause. Okay, I'm not mad about the use of the word balance there because you're going to get with a doctor who's going to run you through some questionnaires about your symptoms and maybe run some blood testing to figure out where your hormones are. Blood testing for hormones is a little bit dodgy just because hormones are fluctuating constantly. So blood testing isn't always the greatest play for hormones, but your menopause doctor might give you a little dose of estrogen, progesterone, maybe some testosterone, just to bring it not back into balance, but back into where it once was, closer to your reproductive levels. They weren't balanced. They were just fluctuating differently. Honestly, there's a graph that went around on Instagram. It was this beautiful waves. These are the waves of fluctuations of reproductive hormones during, your 30s and your 20s. And it's not balance. It's just these sort of overlapping waves. Progesterone does this, estrogen does this, testosterone is doing this. All the other ones are doing things as well. Luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, all these other hormones that I don't know anything about because I'm not a menopause doctor. So why would I? And then when we get into perimenopause, it's just chaos. There's no rhyme or reason. So it's not that they're out of balance. It's just that they're in pure chaos mode. They're just dynamically responding in kind of a skitsy, chaotic way. So your menopause doctor will help to sort of almost wind back the clock in terms of the levels of your hormones. But you're never going to recreate the beautiful soft waves that you had in your reproductive years. We're just kind of putting lipstick on a pig. But it's great because it can help you feel better. I love that for you. So if you're a woman of a certain age, I think it's really wise to go find a doctor of medicine of some kind who is literate on women's hormone health and has a modern view of menopause so that you can go and have conversations with that doctor about how you feel. The symptomatic approach to menopause is the play. Blood testing isn't really useful for hormones. Because why? Because hormones are constantly fluctuating. You get your estrogen tested on day 9 of your cycle or whatever. Okay, there it is. You go back, get it tested on day 9 next month. There's no expectation that those 2 day 9s are remotely like each other. You're a woman in menopause. So we go by symptoms. If you have pain, if you have fatigue, if you have brain fog, if you have hot flashes, night sweats, sleep disruptions, mood stuff, this stuff makes it hard for you to execute in your life. Your executive function goes down. Then it's harder to feed yourself well, go to bed on time, take good care of yourself. We start using coping mechanisms like maybe we're consuming more alcohol or cannabis, or maybe we're not exercising because we're in pain and we didn't sleep well last night. We don't feel like taking a walk because we're tired and our toes hurt. I specifically had toe pain as part of my menopause symptoms. So that's crucial because you don't feel like yourself. We're not balancing our sex hormones. We're just managing symptoms by putting lipstick on the pig of menopause through some hormone therapy if you want to. You don't have to do that either. Currently, just anecdotally, right now, I'm not on any hormone therapy. I've dabbled in it here and there, but symptomatically, I don't have very much going on. And, like mood was kind of a thing every now and then. I have little dark mood days. They're sporadic. Pain seems to have resolved itself. I sleep fine. I have never had a hot flash. So I don't have any symptoms right now. Irrespective of what my hormone levels are doing, I don't have any symptoms. So I'm not currently taking anything. But if I had symptoms to manage, I would. And I have a really great menopause doctor that's cool with me just pumping the brakes on hormone therapy for now until such time as I need them. And I will happily take them when I need them. So anyway, menopause is not my specialty, apart from the fact that I'm a woman going through it. And by the way, this is just a parenthetical, and I think this might sound snarky, but I think many of the health and wellness practitioners and influencers you might be getting your information from, who are calling themselves perimenopause experts, I just don't think they are. The phrase perimenopause was just coined in the last few years, and the people who are declaring themselves perimenopause experts are just people in perimenopause. Now, if we're talking about a doctor who's trained in this stuff, hell yeah. But, the nutrition coach who's a perimenopause expert, no, she's just going through perimenopause, man. Like, she's no more of an expert than you are. At least I'm being honest. I'm not an expert. I'm just in it, figuring it out. Just trying to be proactive and solutions oriented, which is my want. That's my tendency. I want that for you too. I'd like that to be your tendency too. I'd like you to be a solutions-oriented person who's resilient and willing to pivot and renegotiate on things and have your mind changed. I do hope to do a little bit of mind changing in this conversation today. So let's keep going. I'm going to try to keep this at a very gettable level, and I'm not going to go on for infinitely long. I'm going to wrap this up quickly. So there are these other categories of hormones: thyroid, adrenal. I am not super well versed in those. Most women that I've worked with have thyroid dysfunction. It's such an epidemic right now that I'd be surprised if you don't. Can we have that conversation with a thyroid literate doctor who's going to do comprehensive thyroid testing on you Again, tapping into your symptomology, the symptoms of thyroid dysregulation, and helping you with maybe some supplementation, maybe some medication, definitely some lifestyle changes. The thing is, lifestyle changes are going to help a ton. Why? Because hormones are responding to signal. What are you doing? Hormones are responding. There can be some dysfunction or dysregulation of the organs and such that secrete these hormones, like the thyroid gland can become diseased. There's an autoimmune disease. It can be various cancers can affect the thyroid. So want to validate that, mechanistically glands can become dysregulated. But hormones themselves, if we're operating under the assumption that you're generally a well-functioning, healthy human, you can influence how your hormones respond. Like, we don't have to have them balanced by some holistic wellness practitioner. You actually have some agency here. Yay. So there's some things you can do that would help support your thyroid. And unfortunately, it's everything you already know. Like, eat well, get some movement, manage your stress, go to sleep, hydrate, eat a nutrient-dense diet. The boring basics of health affect every aspect of your health. So really, if you're not doing those boring basics to a high level of adherence most days of your life, there you go. There's an opportunity for you. Where can you dial that in? Your thyroid's going to be really happy if you get those basics dialed in. And then if you need to get some supplement support or medication support, well, at least you're layering medication and supplementation over top of a body that's at least well supported. Like even your hormone therapy for menopause. Yeah, go get your hormone therapy for menopause, but still take care of your body so that the hormone therapy works. We're applying hormone therapy, whether that's sex hormone therapy or thyroid hormone therapy, we're applying it to a body. Is your body well taken care of? That's your job. That's your job. The hormone therapy will go on top of the baseline work you're doing. Are you doing the basics? I think you know what they are, but I am going to reiterate them here for you. Okay, I will. So thyroid hormones, everybody I work with to a certain extent has some kind of thyroid dysregulation. They're like, hey, can I still lose weight with my thyroid being kind of out of whack? And I'll say, yes, you can. The things we're going to do in my fat loss program to support metabolic health are going to support your thyroid. So yeah, but keep your endocrinologist close, keep your doctor close so we can keep tabs on your medication. I've had lots of clients who have reduced their thyroid medication just by supporting their body. A healthier body maybe needs less medication. How cool is that? Okay, we move on to the adrenal hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. I'm struggling to think of other adrenal hormones because, again, the adrenals are not an area that I'm super knowledgeable about. You might have heard of adrenal fatigue. Apparently, this isn't even a thing. It's like a syndrome. We have a lot of modern syndromes. Metabolic syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, all these little syndromes that are relatively modern in the modern human wellness zeitgeist, because modern humans are stressed the hell out and not taking care of themselves and surrounded by chemicals and intoxicants and naughty food. And so we have these syndromes. Adrenal fatigue is a syndrome where the adrenal glands have responded to increasing amounts of pressure and stress and worry and panic and struggle. Because hello, welcome to the modern human experience. And now they're over-secreting adrenal hormones and the adrenal glands get tired and then they kind of get a little funky with the way they're secreting hormones. And it's this whole thing. But apparently, according to folks in the medical world, adrenal fatigue is not really a thing. It's just a name we've given to unchecked chronic stress and the natural physiological response to unchecked chronic stress. So the root solution to this is not, man, I need some kind of adrenal cocktail. The root solution is, can you take a break from the chronic pressure and worry? Now, that's easier said than done. Listen, don't come for me, because when I was in nutritionist school getting my credential, that's what they said to us. They said, okay, make sure your clients manage their stress. Pat, pat, pat on the head. And it was like, what? That's a dumb thing to say. Like, oh, just manage your stress. Impossible. We live in a very stressful, just chaotic world. And so I don't think you can manage that. I think that's actually out of your hands. But you do have influence on how you bring it into the body. Oh my gosh, the signal, the little adrenal guys, little adrenal hormone guys inside your body wondering what's going on out there in the world. And you're like, guys, it's not good. It's chaos. You don't have to bring the chaos into your body. I think, what little part of the chaos around me can I claw back some ownership of? Like, let's say I'm struggling in a relationship Okay, can I stand up for myself in that relationship? Maybe I'm struggling at work. Can I have a conversation with my boss about this part of my job that isn't working for me? Is there something that I can do? What can I do in my life to just send into my body a signal that, hey, you know what? It's bad, but it's not that bad. Just drop little droplets of hope into your body. And one of the things I work on with my clients as part of our weight loss protocol is nervous system regulation, which is kind of dancing around the edges of what we're talking about here. Nervous system regulation is so hot right now. Oh my God. But your nervous system, this whole fight or flight, rest and digest, these two halves, the yin yang halves of the nervous system, well, we're kind of chronically in fight or flight, and your adrenal glands have to respond to that. So cortisol and adrenaline and all that stuff responding to the fight or flight. Well, fight or flight response is an adrenal response, really. So we're constantly in fight or flight mode, asking the adrenals to take care of that. Of course, our adrenals get tired. Of course, those hormones become dysregulated. We're just chronically up here. Now, my hunch is that we're supposed to live our lives down in the low, chill, parasympathetic, rest and digest state. We're supposed to live down here at the bottom. We're supposed to live our lives down here with occasional jumps into stress mode, and then we return to rest mode. But instead, we got it flipped. We're in stress mode constantly. Maybe we get a little 5-minute shavasana at the end of the yoga class. We're hoping and praying that the shavasana is going to get our adrenals and our stress response right. I think we just need more shavasanas in our life, shall we say. So more moments where you're just dropping in like everything's okay. And that could be just the act of saying, you know what, everything's okay. Here's one little thing that I was able to control today in the midst of this absolute dumpster fire. Here's the one little thing I was able to control today. Or you know what I do in my work day is I push myself away from my computer and I go lie in my bed. I don't sleep. I don't ruminate. I just lie in the bed, stare at the ceiling. I scratch my kitty's ears or whatever, because the cats always come in. I relax with the cats in the bed, and then I get back up and go to work. Maybe it's a 7-minute mental rest. Maybe it's 10-minute, 13-minute. It's these little moments of mental rest. I think there's utility in that. Okay, so again, we're not balancing our adrenal hormones. We can't balance them because they're going to constantly respond to whatever we're doing. My advice would be, could you drop in to some quiet mental nervous system moments so that your adrenals can reorient back to what it feels like to not be chronically in fight or flight mode? Worth a try. I think that's the best we're going to do. Now, the hormones I do care about, because I'm not an expert in the sex hormones. I'm not an expert in the thyroid hormones. I'm not an expert in the adrenal hormones. I'm not. Anybody who says they're a hormone expert, you got to ask them which ones. Which ones are you an expert in? Because they're all very different. My expertise is in the metabolic hormones, fuel partitioning hormones, insulin, glucagon, leptin, ghrelin, GLP-1. There's a lot of them, including cortisol, which I pull in, and melatonin, which I pull in. Melatonin is a neuroendocrine circadian hormone, but they have fuel partitioning qualities to them as well. So I really do think a lot about insulin, which is our fuel partitioning hormone. It's a hormone that decides where fuel goes and how fuel is used in the body. Obviously, I care about that one a lot because you have a weight loss goal. You have a fat loss goal, and the fat that's on your body that's accumulating rapidly is fuel that's being partitioned in a way that doesn't feel right to you. And maybe that fuel partitioning has changed. And when I say fuel partitioning, I don't want to get too jargony here, but it's basically, where is the body putting the fuel? Where is it putting it? Is it putting it inside the cells to get utilized as energy? Is it getting put away into storage for later? Both of those things are great and healthy. One is not better than the other. They both have to happen in the context of a healthy body. But it's just like fuel moving in and out of storage is what we want. If fuel feels like it's stuck in storage and accumulating in storage, and you're not utilizing it in the cells very well, like it's like something broke down here. It's not flowing between storage and utilization as much. That's probably a breakdown in the function of the metabolic hormones. So just like the sex hormones kind of go wacky and the adrenals can go wacky, the metabolic hormones can go wacky as well. They're just not doing their job as well as they once did. So the experience you might have is, my body's behaving very differently. I'm putting on weight suddenly. What used to work for weight loss doesn't work anymore. That would suggest, though that's symptomatically again, okay? Symptomatically speaking, all of those statements, I'm putting fat around my midsection. I feel like I have no mental energy. I'm low energy. My energy is unpredictable or low, punishingly low. I'm constantly hungry and snacky. I'm putting weight on. I can't seem to get the weight to move. All of these are symptoms And if you go to the doctor with those symptoms, they're going to say, sounds like there's something wrong with the hormone insulin. I think maybe you're a little dysregulated or insulin resistant. A good doctor might suggest that. They might run a blood test to test out where your fasting insulin is, your fasting glucose. But again, hormones are fluctuating. So blood tests are difficult. There are some markers that you can look at on a blood test. But frankly, symptomatically speaking, if you can identify with even 2 or 3 of the things on that list that I just shared, we've got an insulin problem. And it's fixable. All you have to do is change the inputs so that insulin responds better, more like it used to. Now, the thing about insulin that's a little bit different than, let's say, estrogen is estrogen will go away. Estrogen is going. Insulin doesn't go anywhere. Your metabolism doesn't really change. Your reproductive status changes through life. Your metabolic status does not change at all. Hooray! Isn't that good news? Yeah, you're every bit as metabolically potentially healthy now as you were when you were 20. Nothing changes in the fuel partitioning system. It's a forever system. Metabolic rate doesn't slow down until you're in your late 60s or early 70s, and then it slows down by 1 to 3%, which is nothing. It's hard to think about metabolism in the context of a percentage, but let's say at maybe when you're 30 years old, you're burning 2,000 calories a day, burning. By your 60s, that might slow down 1%, so 20 fewer calories. That's nothing. It doesn't slow down very much at all, okay? Great news. Why does it feel like it's slowed down? Well, you're putting on body fat. Things that used to work stop working. You're tired all the time. You can't motivate yourself to get off the couch. You struggle to get out of bed in the morning. That feels very sluggish. There's a sluggishness. But you feel sluggish because your body's not able to tap into fuel very well because the hormone insulin's not functioning as well as it once did. That's all. We can get insulin to work better. And then when we do, one of the first quick wins you have is improved energy. You have access to fuel again. This is the fuel partitioning hormone. Decides where fuel goes. If you feel low energy, that's a fuel problem. And insulin's in charge of that. Parenthetical. You might also not be sleeping well. But you know what? Insulin affects how you sleep as well. So resolving insulin resistance can help you sleep better. And sleeping better can help you resolve insulin resistance. Oh, it goes back and forth, baby, because hormones are dynamically moving. Everything about a hormone is a two-way system. Everything about it. So for example, I'm talking about insulin resistance. Well, resolving insulin resistance can help you lose weight, but guess what? Losing weight can help you resolve insulin resistance. This chicken egg situation, it never stops. The cycle of hormones is constant, dynamic motion, amazing. But the experience you're having is that this is all ground to a halt. It hasn't. It's just not working as well as it once could. Now, I'm trying not to use language around this concept of being broken because you're not. You can't break your metabolism. It's not breakable. No, are you kidding me? The fueling system of your body is not breakable, baby. It's not working as well as it did because you changed the inputs. Insulin's just responding to what you did. That's all. That's, by the way, not to blame you. That's to empower you. Insulin's responding to what you did. You want insulin to work better and get that fuel out of storage back into your cells where it can utilize it for energy so you can have energy and start losing fat off your body? You can do that. There's ways to get insulin working better. This is what my whole program does. My whole program zeroes in on the hormone insulin, getting it working better. But hey, you know what? Remember earlier when I said your thyroid hormones and your sex hormones, everything about hormones works better when the body is well taken care of, when the basics are in play. Are you nourishing yourself adequately? Most women aren't. That's what I start with. If you do my program, we got to start with food. You have to forget everything you know about dieting because you're different now. You're metabolically dysregulated now. So what used to work will not work until you resolve the function of this hormone. And you have to adequately nourish yourself. And you got to get adequate sleep. Now that can be hard. Oh my gosh, I'm having hot flashes. Okay, go get your estrogen dealt with your hormone doctor so we can get sleep. But also food affects how you sleep. Movement. Well, I can't move because my joints are sore. Go have a conversation with your menopause doctor. I can't move because I'm too tired all the time. Okay, well, getting fueling down pat will help you sleep and sleep will help you move. The puzzle of hormones is multidimensional, which is why when somebody says hormones, it's like, you can't just say hormones. You can't just say it's your hormones. Anybody who's talking about hormones needs to give you this very complex and overwhelming story of how they all interact with each other constantly based on the inputs you're providing. This is so exciting to me. But metabolic hormones are my whole job. Now, I talked about cortisol. It's a stress hormone. It's an adrenal hormone. It's also a fuel partitioning hormone because when you're under a period of stress, let's imagine you're getting chased by a bear, the old bear chase, classic. Well, if you're being chased by a true bear, your cortisol would have to help you get away from the bear. And one of the things cortisol would do is it would dump sugar from storage into your blood as your getaway fuel. That's great. Thank goodness the body can do that. Thank goodness for sugar. Thank goodness for glucose and insulin and cortisol because they can help us get away from a bear. But we're chronically running away from a bear all the time. So maybe cortisol is dumping sugar into the blood constantly. So now maybe your body's running on sugar and storing fat away. You've never really tapped into the fat utilization pathway because you're stuck in sugar utilization. And the root cause of that is this chronic bear chase. It's not cortisol's fault. It's the stress. You have agency on that. Don't blame cortisol. I don't think you have dysregulated cortisol. I think you have dysregulated stress. That's a you problem. That's good news. Whenever I put it back on you, that's good news. Oh my gosh, I'm the problem. I can do something about it. That's amazing. You're not dysfunctional. You're not a defective thing. Your body is amazing. It's perfect. What have you been doing to get in its way? And then I talk about melatonin, the sleep hormone. So it's a neuroendocrine circadian hormone. Melatonin is your sleep hormone. But to me, melatonin is a metabolic hormone too. It just works at night. It's packaging away fuel and nutrients and stuff at night. We need to sleep better. We need to improve the function of melatonin. When you sleep better, you eat better. That's facts. When you've had a bad night's sleep, you're more of a junk food girly, right? When you've had bad sleep, your decision making is harder. You're too tired to go for a walk. So bad sleep impacts your metabolic function the next day. But feeding impacts how you sleep. Insulin affects melatonin. Feeding improves your sleep. Sleeping improves your feeding. We have to get the sleep and the wake halves of the metabolic cycle, shall we say, in check. So when I work with people, I do think about sleep a lot. I have a meal timing philosophy that is circadian in nature because melatonin is a circadian neuroendocrine hormone. It responds to time of day. Remember I said hormones are responding? Melatonin responds to circadian signals, sunrises and sunsets, time of day. Insulin's responding to fuel coming into the blood, whether that fuel is coming in because you ate or because cortisol dumped sugar in the blood. Insulin is responding to fuel present in the blood. That's its go signal. Estrogen responds to time of month, time of life. Every hormone has a signal. So we have to play to these things. I need you sleeping when it makes sense to sleep and then eating when it makes sense to eat so that the sleeping happens when it makes sense to sleep. The circle of the day, circadian. Waking, sleeping, it never stops. You have to consider sleep when you're considering your waking hormones. I hope I'm not losing you here, but I just think here's the spirit behind this talk. We need to stop blaming hormones for our problem because hormones aren't the problem. Hormones are just doing what you're asking them to do. What are you asking them to do? You get to fix that. That's on you. That's in your purview. That's in your control. That's amazing. Secondly, I really feel passionately about clearing the decks for you, clearing the confusion. You're confused about hormones because people are talking about hormones. And then all we as the hapless health consumer know is, well, my hormones are out of whack. And then we put that label on us like we have some kind of disease. And you might have a thyroid disease. You might have the disease of menopause. You might have a metabolic disease like type 2 diabetes. Okay, I spoke to a woman via email today who just got a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. That's when insulin dysregulation goes too far. We can claw that back. We can solve that. Type 1 diabetes is a different disease state that you can't fix, right? You might have a disease, but hormones being out of whack is not a disease. It's not a death sentence. You can reorient all of your hormones except the sex hormones. They're going away. It's fine. All the rest of them are meant to work perfectly until you die. Your thyroid hormones, your adrenal hormones, your metabolic hormones, your circadian hormones, they all are meant to work constantly. Just the sex hormones are the ones that F off. And they are doing that. And they just are. We have influence on the other ones. So I don't want you to believe for 1 second that your hormones are the problem. They're not. You have a lot more control over hormones than you think you do.